Hey, how's it going everyone? My name is True Wonder Dog and I'm here today with a full breakdown of G. Honestly, one of my favorite characters of Season 3, if not my favorite character in the entire game based on his animations and personality alone. This guy is just overflowing with charisma and his moves are so flashy and so much fun to perform. Now with that all said, he does have some major downsides to his playstyle, so before I even break down his normals, special moves, and so on, I want to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of playing G. So let's start off on a positive note and talk about what makes him good. So if you do manage to charge up his attacks, he has some of the most damaging combos in the game without having to spend any meter, which is very good, very advantageous, makes him very good without meter, which means the meter just builds and builds until you want to use it to extend combos or for super. So much like Jury, as long as you power him up correctly, the meter just becomes candy. You can use it whenever you want to and it's not really required for his core gameplay as long as you manage to power him up. And one more great thing about G is that all of his normals are pretty much plus on block, and if they are punishable, they're barely punishable. So his mediums, for the most part, are either safe or plus. His only punishable attacks are his heavy punches and crouching heavy kick. And of course crouching heavy kick is always unsafe, always very punishable. Pretty good range though, so if spaced correctly, some characters probably can't actually punish him with another sweep. But yeah, all in all, for the most part, he has good range on his normals. He has a normal for every situation. His command normals also have very good range too. He has multiple types of anti-airs. He has a body splash, which is great for crossing up. So he's definitely not lacking in the normal department. Now unfortunately, that is where the good news ends, because unfortunately G does have quite a few disadvantages. The first one is no 3-frame normal. They're all 4 frames. Now they do have good range to compensate, that is one nice thing. This is pretty good for a crouching jab. And he can cancel it into a special move, so that's good as well. So he does have some very good light attack hit confirms to compensate, and the good range also makes up for the fact that it's 1 frame slower than other characters. And one more very big disadvantage is no invincible wake up attack. He does not have one, unfortunately. Although he does have his V skill, which can be good for anti-airing and catching opponents who try to cross him up. So it's good against heavy mix-up characters like Bison trying the devil reverse on the opposite side. You can do this and hit both sides, that's very nice. But unfortunately he doesn't have any reliable options while being pressured. He has to just take his licks and try to find his opening and wait for a gap in the block string and know when it's his turn. So G is going to be a character for those of you who have very good frame data knowledge and know exactly when it's your turn to punish the opponent for attacking. But if you're someone who plays the game more casually and you start going on the defensive, it's going to be very tough for you. And G also does not do very well against projectiles. Now if he wants to spin the meter, he does have this move. It doesn't have the best range, but it is fully projectile invulnerable after frame 4, so you can pretty much do it on reaction. If the opponent throws a fireball, you can hop right over it, so let me go ahead and tell Urian to do that to me real quick. So as you just saw there, I hopped right over the projectile as long as I was willing to spend some meter. Now if you don't want to spin the meter, you can get to level 3 of his G charge and it becomes the exact same move essentially. So while G does have ways to punish projectiles, it's tough for him to get there unless you want to spin the meter. Now thankfully, like I mentioned earlier, G doesn't spin meter most of the time, so you should always have about 1 bar to spin if you want to go over projectiles. Alright everyone, so that basically covers what makes G good and where G is lacking. So with all that out of the way, I know it was quite a mouthful, I do apologize, but now the good news is we can finally start off with his normals, and then his special moves, then his V system, and finally his super. So let's go ahead and start off with the normals. First up, we have Standing Light Punch. Pretty decent range, 4 frames of startup, and it can also be special cancelled as well, so that's good. And it also combos into Standing Light Kick. And Standing Light Kick is also fully cancelable into special moves, so that's just one more good thing. G does definitely have some good 4-frame punish combos, especially when he levels up. So that's one very good thing. His light attacks are honestly very useful. And Crouching Light Attack is more or less the same. Very similar frame advantage, 4 frames of startup, very good range though, very good for a crouching jab, so while it is 1 frame slower than most, it's still very good. Next up we have Medium Punch. So with Medium Punch, pretty decent range, and it's +3 on block, so that's very good. It can be good for frame traps if you hit them with the jab, and on counter hit it will in fact combo, so that's good. And if you do hit medium, you can do crouching medium and then get a combo. So that's also good. Standing medium combos into crouching medium. Now, crouching medium has slightly better range, which is good, and basically the exact same frame advantage. It's +2 instead of +3, so not quite as advantageous, but still a very good normal. Still very good for frame traps, great for poking the opponent. And next we have the Heavy Punch. So once again, the heavy punches are the only unsafe normals G has outside of his sweep. So we have standing heavy punch, which has pretty good range and is fully special cancelable, which is fantastic, especially for combo punishes. So you get the crush counter, and you can do heavy into a special move. It's very good for that. It has great hit stun, so it combos into moves that normally would not combo. And on counter hit, heavy punch does send the opponent flying through the air, so you can dash in for more pressure, or cancel into certain special moves that will catch the opponent. So even on hit or counter hit, this can be a great option. So yeah, standing heavy punch does have counter hit properties that can be comboed after. Now they are airborne, so you don't get the crazy options, but it's still a decent option. And in fact, once you level up, you can do some pretty cool combos off of that heavy punch, so just one thing to keep in mind. Next we have crouching heavy punch, which is a pretty dang good anti-air. I like to use back heavy punch more often because it cancels into a special move, like right here. And it's better if they're a bit further in front of you, but if they're closer to being right above you, then crouching heavy is a pretty good option, very good hitbox, very reliable anti-air, and for me personally, I love having reliable anti-air, so crouching heavy punch is very good for that. It's also special cancelable, so that's one more good thing. And that's it for the punches, so let's move on to the kicks. So standing light kick is your furthest reaching normal, as far as light attacks go. So it's very fast, 4 frames, just like before, and it can be special canceled, so that's very good. And as mentioned earlier, it combos after light punch, so that can be a very big deal. And that's pretty much it for it, just good range and cancels into special moves, so it's good for that. Then we have crouching light kick. Crouching light kick, once again, good range and hits low. It also combos into crouching light punch, so that's a good thing. And that can all be canceled into special moves as well, so very good for that. It's a good option if you want to start off low. And G has a very good far-reaching overhead, so this can be a great option for a mix-up. And that's pretty much about it for his light kick though, so let's go ahead and move on to the medium kicks. Now, neither of these actually combo into special moves, but they have pretty good range, and they're not punishable either, so standing is only -2, and the crouching is actually neutral. It has good range too, not quite as good as the standing. Standing medium kick is your best check move. So if you want to try to whiff punish the opponent from a certain distance, then medium kick is definitely your option. It's a great way to whiff punish and a great way to just keep them in check if they're trying to walk forward on you. And of course the crouching is just good for checking. It won't cancel into a special move, so it's just good to make them check their feet from a distance, and even if they block it, it's just neutral. So it's pretty dang good. And finally we have heavy kick. Now, heavy kick up close I'm pretty sure is unsafe. Yes, it's -5, so pretty dang punishable. You do not want to do this unless you know it's going to land. It's very risky. You can try and space it. It's got pretty good range, so if you want to space it, it's pretty good for that. In fact, you know what? This is actually his furthest reaching normal, I just realized. It's further than medium kick by a pretty good amount, so heavy is actually your furthest reaching normal. Heavy kick is your best normal to check the spacing. Just don't do it up close. Now, if you do it up close, you can always cancel it into V-trigger, so that's good. It can be canceled on hit 2, which is awesome. It's a very easy hit confirm cancel. So, crouching heavy kick, very good range. Crush counter on counter hit, of course, so builds some V-gauge and gets a hard knockdown. And pretty dang solid range. Not the best in the game, but certainly one of the best as far as a sweep goes. So very good range in that department. And it's always nice to have a sweep that has good range, because then the opponent can't always punish you with their own sweep. A lot of players, when they block a sweep, they want to sweep you right back, and some characters just don't have the range to do that. So that's one more good thing about this sweep. Pretty good range, hard for certain characters to punish with their own sweep. Alright, so next up we have the jumping normals. So jumping light punch, you might recognize it, looks very similar to a certain character from Third Strike, as does this entire outfit ensemble. But jumping light attack can be a decent air to air. It's obviously not your go-to jump in, but if you want to jump back and light punch the opponent, it can be a good option for that if they're trying to jump in on you or cross you up. And then we have jumping light kick. Jumping light kick doesn't have very many uses in my opinion. I wouldn't recommend it most of the time except for maybe a tick throw into his command grab. Could be good for that, but he does have better options, so I wouldn't use that most of the time. I don't think jumping light kick is that useful. So then we have jumping medium punch, which is actually more unique than it looks at first. So if I have Urien set to jump, which I'm gonna do real quick. So if Urien jumps and I hit him with this, he actually flies all the way back down to the ground. It does not even have to be a counter hit. If this jumping medium connects at all, it smacks him straight to the ground, and I might be able to actually dash in on him too. So it's very good if you want to maintain pressure and keep the opponent grounded. If they try to jump out of the corner, I didn't get him to stay in the corner, but I did punish him for it, so that is one awesome option. If they try to jump, you just go and smack them out of the sky and they stay in the corner. Then we have jumping medium kick. I do not like the hitbox on this thing. It whiffs all the time. I don't recommend it. It's not even his cross-up move, so I don't recommend doing medium kick. his jumping kicks for the most part just aren't that good outside of the heavy version. So then we have jumping heavy punch. So jumping heavy punch is great for starting off combos, also looks very similar to a character from Third Strike. It's very good on hit stun, so it leads into combos, so that's what it's good for. Just your typical jumping heavy attack. And then jumping heavy kick, very similar, but it has a weird wind up to it. So you do have to time it a little bit. If you do it too late, it just won't hit at all. And if you do it too early, it'll miss too. So it's a bit harder to time than the heavy. It's not quite as meaty as heavy punch. But heavy kick does still have really good range, so it has its purposes. Another reason I like using it is if the opponent's trying to jump after me, I can do it on retreat, and sometimes it catches them, so it's good for that sometimes. But once again, the kicks aren't that good when jumping. Most of the time you want to use the punches. Every single punch has utility, the kicks not so much. And then we have his best jumping normal, which is technically a command normal, but I'm still going to mention it because we are in the jumping attack section. So it's actually down medium punch. This attack is a body splash, similar to Zangief, although not as much hit stun because it is a medium and not a heavy. But it still does lead to full combos, so it's very good for that, and it's a very reliable cross-up. The only way you're going to miss this is if you're right in the opponent's face and then do it, because most of the time it's going to cross up. You don't even have to worry about aiming it, and it's great for tick throw setups too, so I can do this, and boom, I crossed up and got a tick throw. But yeah, so he has a very good tick throw option, great cross up, great hit stun to start off combos. Definitely one of his best jump-ins 90% of the time. Very good move. Alright everyone, that is it for his normal, so let's move on to his command attacks. First up, we have back heavy punch. Very solid attack, hits twice and does launch the opponent. It can be special canceled, so that's also a big plus. And as I mentioned earlier, fantastic anti-air, which will always float the opponent on hit when they're in the sky, which means you can cancel it into his special move and get more damage, especially if you level up. It can be a very painful anti-air, so it's just awesome that you have that as an option. His back heavy punch is very good for anti-airing. And next up we have forward heavy punch. Now if blocked up close it is -4, so every character can punish it. You want to space this move appropriately. And it has decent range, although very long start up and very long recovery too, so if you whip it, you're going to eat a very big jump in, so be careful when using it. I've eaten jump ins multiple times for trying to throw this move out randomly in the neutral. I don't recommend it. It's got long recovery. Like if I whip this, oh, it took me all day to walk backwards. You see that? Very, very long recovery. However, what this move is most useful for is its crush counter property. It's your go-to crush counter after blocking an invincible move. So let me go ahead and show you what a basic punish combo looks like. And as you can see, almost 300 damage for a very easy punish combo that didn't cost me any meter. So it's great for crush counter punishes, that's its main go-to. It's also a good reaching footsie tool, but once again, long recovery, so be careful when using it. And last but not least, we have his forward heavy kick, a very far-reaching overhead that does decent damage too. Now it is -7 on block, so it is very punishable. You want to space it appropriately, but just look at that range. Very good range. I mean, it's no Colleen overhead, but the range on this thing is pretty insane, so it's a very fantastic overhead. And that is it for his command normal, so let's move on to his special moves next. Now the first move we have to cover is his G charge, because it makes every other move better, and it's also how you want to end all your special moves. So this input by itself is down, down, and 2 punches. I don't ever recommend doing it in the neutral unless the opponent's really far away and doesn't have very many far range options, like maybe Zangief's at full screen and you want to pop it. But even then I don't really recommend it. The main time you want to use it is after connecting any special move or his V skill. So if I do this, I can now charge and I'm safe. I'm completely safe there. Or I can do this and charge it, and that's good too. And even his V skill, you can actually charge it. And now I'm already level 3. I was actually level 3 already, and you can't go past level 3. And basically what those levels do is make your special moves that much better and in different ways. So they're not always universally better. Some moves that were once safe become unsafe, but they get new properties like wall bounces for no meter. So that's a definite plus. But the combo extensions also become more limited sometimes. So they have their advantages and slight disadvantages, that way it's just not straightforward better, but thankfully it's better in more ways than it's worse, so it's always a better attack, just in different ways. And that's basically G-Charge in a nutshell. Do keep in mind that if the opponent knocks you down at any time, you will lose 1 level. So if you're at level 3 and the opponent knocks you down, you're now level 2, and if the opponent knocks you down one more time, you're back at level 1 and you have no enhancements to any of your moves. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's start off with G-Smash Over. This is your most damaging way to end combos most of the time, and it's only -4 on block, and if you space it correctly and hit it max distance, the opponent's going to have a very tough time punishing you. In fact, certain characters can't punish you at all. And I might go as far to say that it's impossible to punish with any character as long as you do it at max distance on block, but I'm kind of afraid to say that because some characters have very far-reaching normals, but it is only -4, so that's fantastic, and it's your go-to way for finishing your combos if you just want damage. Now it does have no mix-up properties, and I think certain characters can also duck under it as well, so you want to keep your eye out for that. You definitely want to hit confirm into it and not do it raw 90% of the time. Now if you want to spin the meter, you do get a wall bounce from it, which is a great way to extend combos if you haven't leveled up. Speaking of which, every time you end a combo with this move, you do want to do his G charge and go ahead and power it up. Once you've powered it up once, you basically just get more damage. I don't think any frame data even changes. It's still -4. You basically just get more damage, so that's very good. And if you level it up one more time, you get a wall bounce for free with no meter whatsoever, so that's fantastic. And this goes for all the moves, by the way. It doesn't matter which move you cancel into G-Charge, it makes all of your moves universally better. Now unfortunately, this wall bounce does come at a cost. This move is now -6 on block instead of -4, so it's now very easy for most characters to punish, especially if you don't space it correctly, and even then they can use medium attacks to punish you most of the time, if it's 6 frames. So you want to be careful about that. You definitely want to use it only for hit confirms now, because if you do it raw and the opponent blocks it, you're going to eat a full punish now. It's much more serious business now. It's only for ending combos at this point when it's level 3. And next up we have G Smash Under. It's very similar to the last attack, but it hits low. So keep that in mind. It's a very good low check, especially from full screen. A lot of characters aren't expecting a low, but be careful how much you do that because it is very punishable since it is a low. It's not like the over attack, it's -8. So combo city if the opponent blocks this, so be very careful when using it. And if you want to spend some meter on it, you get a little bit more damage and a bit more corner carry, so that's just fine. I still don't recommend it most of the time. And if you level up, it's pretty much the same move, just more damage. It's still -8, but you get a bit more damage on hit, so that's nice. And then if you get level 3, it acts the same as the EX version where it's just more damage and better corner carry. It now becomes one of the best way to end your combos after G Smash Over. It can be tricky to time in certain situations, but it's still a fantastic way to end your combos. And next up we have G Spin Kick, easily one of the most unique moves because it changes in different ways as you level up. So by default, it's just good for frame advantage. It can combo after heavy punch, so it's good for that. It can also combo after back heavy punch for an anti-air option, which is fantastic, or even on the ground, it still combos. But as an anti-air, it's a great punish, so it's good for that. If you want to spend some meter, it does become invincible to fireballs after frame 4, so that's very good. Well, actually on frame 4, I should say. On frame 4, it's fully invincible to projectiles, so that's good if you want to spin the meter. It can be a great way to punish projectiles as long as you're close enough. Now, if you level up once, it actually becomes a great combo extender. You now have enough hit stun to actually do a light kick afterwards, or light punch light kick. I don't recommend doing light punch light kick because you might be too far away to land it sometimes, and also it's barely any more damage. It's like 10 more points of damage, which is less than a jab, so I don't recommend it. I recommend just going straight to light kick into your special moves. So here's what a basic combo looks like when you're at level 2. And as you can see, 240 damage for no meter is pretty dang good. So at level 2, it actually has the best combo properties. It's still not any better against fireballs, but it does lead to full combos if you hit, so that's pretty fantastic. Now at level 3, it becomes very similar to the EX version. It is now fully invincible to projectiles on and after frame 4, so that's fantastic. However, you can no longer combo after it, unless you're in V-Trigger 1. It just becomes a great way to end your combos, especially your anti-airs after back heavy punch. My god, it's a damaging anti-air for your opponent now. Very rough for them to eat that. So it's very good in that situation, and it can be a great way to end combos sometimes too. So if I get this wall bounce, and I want to do it, oh, it's a great way to end combos. 250, my goodness, and that was with no normals. G really hits hard when he wants to at level 3, man. He's very good at that. So while it can't be comboed after anymore, it now becomes your best way to end combos in certain situations, and it's great for countering fireballs at the expense of no meter. And then we have G Impact, a pretty far-reaching command grab. Although very slow. It's 12 frames on startup according to the frame data I'm looking at on the official Capcom website, so unless that's wrong, it says 12 frames of startup, which is pretty slow for a command grab. Not to mention on whiff, look at that recovery. Look how long it took me to walk backwards. It's crazy long recovery, so be careful when using it. You definitely want to tick throw into it. Now the nice thing is, you get a special move for free. Even at level 1, you get a free follow-up, You can't do the EX version though of that move from what I've tried. So your best option most of the time is just that. And if you're in the corner, you get a bit more options like back heavy into the spin kick, only after level 1 though, not on level 1. So if I level it up, now we're level 2, I get more damage, and my follow-up does more damage too. So now we have real good damaging command grab territory, right? 178 for no meter, pretty dang good. So we're getting into damage territory. And then at level 3, we have the most damaging command grab and the most damaging follow-ups too, which look really flashy. If you want to style on your opponent, G is perfect for that. Look at this, 250 damage, 260 almost, no meter required, and a command grab. Fantastic stuff. And in the corner, he actually has different options, so it's important to keep all that in mind. He has fantastic combos with his command grab. And last but not least, we have G Burst, easily his most complicated move, which is why I saved it for last. Unlike his previous special moves, the light, medium, and heavy version do have different properties. So the light version has faster startup, but it's more punishable, it's -8. Now the medium version has slightly longer startup, but it is more safe as a result, it's -6. And the heavy version has the slowest startup, but it's -4, so it's the toughest for the opponent to punish. So let me go ahead and make him guard because I can't actually use this current setup to make him block it. So if he blocks this, -4, medium version, -6, and light version, -8. So they're all different. Then the EX version is actually -2, so it's completely safe if you want to spin the bar. Now, this move is not useful in most situations until you level up, and even when you do level up, it's still not super useful. I think its main purpose is for players who don't like doing the Z motions, like the Dragon Punch motions, because it is just a fireball motion. It's a lot easier to do, but it's not your go-to option in most situations. And one more benefit real quick of the EX version that I want to mention is that back part actually does hit the opponent. See that? It's not very much damage, but it does keep them honest, because even at almost full screen, you can hit them for 50 points of damage. Now if you're a bit closer, it actually launches them. So you get a knockdown, you can go in for pressure, do your stuff. So let's go ahead and level it up. If you level up, now it hits twice, which is very good. And the frame data also changes, so the light version is now -5, right? It's now much safer than it was. The medium version, -3. So only punishable by certain characters. And then the heavy version, I'm not going to be able to combo into, I'm going to have to make him block. Let's see how advantageous that is. So the heavy version at level 2 is -1, so fully safe, and the EX version -2 as always. The EX version does not change regardless of your level. And one more important thing to note, because it does have more hits done at level 2, it actually does have some unique corner combos that I've seen in the showcase and in the trailer, but I haven't been able to actually replicate them. I've done it right here, and I still can't get my follow-ups to happen. From what I've seen in the video, you can combo after it, but maybe you have to be in V-Trigger 1 or something. I can't get it to work. They act like it has enough hits done to cancel into his lights, but I can't get it to work. I have seen it in his promo though, and in the trailer, so I'm not quite sure why it doesn't work for me. But level 2 does have more hits done, so that's important to keep in mind, and slightly more damage, and it's better on block. So for level 3, you now get the knockdown. It's exactly the same as his EX version. It might be the same on block too. Yes, it's now -2, so that's very, very good. And I don't think it changes anymore based on your strength. It does not. So now they're all the same. Light, medium, and heavy all behave the same, so that's important to take note of. They're all now the EX version, so it becomes a bit easier to keep track of and understand what's happening. Now, this move does have its purposes in V-Trigger 1, but outside of that, most of the time you're not going to want to do this because it can't cancel into other special moves, so it's not nearly as useful. But in V-Trigger 1, because it can cancel into different special moves, it can be a great way to extend combos in certain situations, especially after certain hit confirms. Alright everyone, and that is it for his special move, so let's move on to his V system next. Alright, so first off, let's cover his V skill one more time. So as you saw earlier, it does reflect projectiles. However, it actually has a hitbox of its own as well, although it's a bit deceiving. It's not quite the very edge of it, but it does hit the opponent, and you can also do it in the air. So if Urian tried to anti-air fireball me, I could actually use this to beat both options. But you want to time it correctly, and there you go. Now, despite what you might think, it's not good for cross-ups, like at all. Look at that, it doesn't really seem to work. It does work if you're straight above them, sometimes, but it's not the best for trying to cross up the opponent at all. It doesn't really seem to work. So you want to do it when you're just straight up jumping in. You can't do it while jumping backwards, by the way, just a note. Has to be neutral or a forward jump. But it is a great way to counter projectiles on the way down. Not to mention, it's a decent anti-air too, though you want to do it early. because it's active for a very long time. So if I tell Urien to jump in on me, which I will do, so I want to do it very early, otherwise it will trade. In fact, that was a bit late. The second he leaves the ground, you want to do it because it's active for a very long time. Now you want to make sure they're jumping forward, because if they jump backward, they can whiff punish you. This thing actually lasts for a very long time, and it's very unsafe on block. I think it's like -17 or something. So you never want to use it up close outside of the anti-airs, or to end certain combos if you want to build some V-gauge. But it's a great anti-air, especially if they cross you up, I think. So let's go ahead and have him jump over me. Yeah, it still hits behind me, so it's fantastic for that. Now, he did not do a cross-up move there. I just wanted to show that it does hit on both sides. Unlike the air version, which for some odd reason doesn't. What is going on with that? I don't get the idea. But it's a fantastic anti-air. It's great for countering projectiles. It's great for coming down on characters who have projectiles. And it's great against Akuma too, if you learn how to spot his air fireballs. Because normally he'll do an air fireball and then come at you. You can counter both with this. Kind of like Zangief's Lariat. It beats the fireball and it beats him on the way down, as long as you do it early enough. So it's actually a really good anti-air, so it has more purposes than just beating projectiles. It can end combos or anti-air. And next up we have his V reversal, which is pretty standard. It hits the opponent and knocks them away, so it's a great way to escape pressure. So even though he doesn't have an invincible special move, his V reversal is still pretty good for escaping pressure, so at least he has that. Now if you're a player like me who's not used to using your V reversal, you want to get real friendly with it when you're playing as G, because it's your only option for escaping pressure most of the time. And then we have his V-triggers. Now I'm going to start off with V-trigger 2 because it's very straightforward, whereas V-trigger 1 is very complicated. V-trigger 1 might be one of the best V-triggers in the game, in all honesty. V-trigger 2 is still pretty dang good, but it's only 2 bars, and as a result it's quite weaker in terms of utility, but it still serves its function. So V-trigger 2 gives you 2 new special moves. The first is just the V-trigger button again, so heavy punch and heavy kick, and it adds an uppercut, which is great for canceling after any of your special moves. So it's a great way to end combos pretty much. You get to end a combo with more damage twice before it runs out. Now the second new move you get is a command grab with very long startup, but look at that damage, 250, meterless, very scary move. Now that is down and V-trigger in order to do that move, and it has one more unique property to it. Once again, let's make Urien jump. Jump for me, Urien. And as you can see, 1 hit of armor. Now I mistimed it, so that's very scary. Because I mistimed it, he could actually kill me there. But if you time it correctly, all that damage, and it's armored too. Now one thing I don't recommend doing is if the opponent's pressuring you on a block string, canceling into it, and then trying to do the throw right away. I get counter hit all the time for doing that, so I think that doesn't work. What you want to do instead, if they are jumping, you can cancel into it. That could be good. Now, one thing you might have noticed, once I land that command grab, my entire gauge is gone. So I get 2 uppercuts or 1 command grab. Now, if it whiffs, I get 2 command grab chances, but if it lands, it's all the way gone no matter what. But all in all, V-trigger 2 is much more straightforward than V-trigger 1. It just gives you 2 new moves that are good for different things. Okay, so as you can see, V-trigger 1 is 3 bars, but it does some amazing stuff. So first off, all your special moves are now permanently at level 3. Even if you get knocked down, you still have level 3, so you can do all that crazy stuff that makes level 3G amazing, crazy damage for no meter, his moves become better anti-air punishes, all the stuff we talked about at level 3 is now available in V-trigger 1. One extra thing it does on top of that is your V skill now becomes a projectile, and you just tap it like normal. In fact, it's not up to you, it's always going to be a projectile, but it's from the air also, which is fantastic. And you can actually cancel into this as well as every other special move. So basically your combos in V-trigger 1 become nuts because you can cancel every special move into itself as long as the recovery allows for it, and you can also cancel these special moves into his V skill in certain situations. So you get some crazy combo stuff. If you want to watch the G trailer, it pretty much shows all the crazy stuff you can do. So do the challenge trials as well, show some of the crazier stuff, and I'm sure some YouTubers are going to make full combo videos showing the max damage you can do in V-trigger 1, but for the most part it's very similar to Bison's. You can now chain all of his stuff together, which leads to more damage and more flashy stuff, so it's very powerful in that regard. And like I touched on a bit earlier, his G-Burst now becomes a bit more useful in V-Trigger 1 because you can cancel it into different moves, but it's still not the one you want to do in most situations. Please tell me down in the comments if you found some really good situations for G-Burst, because I don't see it being good outside of a few situations. Most of the time I don't think you want to do it, even in V-Trigger 1, but it does have some combo properties in V-Trigger 1 that makes it more useful. And last but not least, we have G's Super. Fully invincible on the first 10 frames and pretty good damage. 330 on counter hit does 340. Now it does not change based on your level. I kinda wish it did, that is kind of a nice touch for me, but it does not, unfortunately. It's still just 330. And in the corner you still get all the damage. I was worried that because it carries them across the screen it would do less damage in the corner. It does not. It's the same damage, so that's very nice. And it's a great way to end your combos in certain situations. In fact, in the corner, you don't always have to special cancel into it. Sometimes the opponent is launched so high that you actually still have time to do it raw and end the combo. Alright everyone, that concludes this guide for G. Thank you so much for watching and I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, please leave a like down below, as videos like this take a very long time to make, and every like really does help me out a lot. And while you're down there, please post any tips you have for G in the comments section. And if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit the bell. That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.